Hey guys, Mike Toy, Bonsai Boise. So I'm here again in Jay's yard where my trees are. And it's time for the fall 2019 update of all the trees. So I'm going to walk through here and take a look at them. A couple of them I'm going to make special note of and maybe even like pull them off to the side to get a better look at. But anyways, follow me and let's take a look. Anyways, I'm going to do a quick walkthrough. And one thing I'm going to say too is that I'm not even going to move these. It was just a temporary staging area for now while I was moving. But rather than move them to where I'm at now, we're going into winter time, and this is actually the perfect location and setup for winterizing trees. As you can see, it's just this narrow strip here, and it's south facing, so that would be south there, so it gets a ton of southern sun, and it's well protected. It's a perfect balance for bonsai trees, because for the outdoor trees you want them to be outdoors in the wintertime so that they can harden up and build some strength and get some character on the trunks and on the bark, but yet you don't want them so exposed that they freeze and die. So it's a weird little balance, but I think this spot is the perfect balance, and my girlfriend Jay is gracious enough to allow me part of her yard to do this. So thank you to her, and I'm very grateful that I've got a good spot here to put them. So let's go take a look at them now. Okay, I'm just going to start here and work our way back. So that's the blueberry bush that I've had for 5 years now. I'm actually thinking I might try and turn this into a bonsai at some point. I don't know if you can bonsai a blueberry, but I don't see why not. You can see here it's got a nice woody looking trunk. So who knows? I'll keep it in this big pot for now, and let it grow for a while, but I think eventually I will turn that into a bonsai. Virginia creeper. I did a video on this in early summertime where I repotted it. For some reason, it didn't really respond well. Didn't die or anything, but it didn't really grow a whole lot. It grew a little, and the leaves turned red and basically stayed that color about all summer. So I'm not sure what happened there, but it didn't like that, which is odd because these things, you can just cut them in half, stick it in a pot, and it'll just keep growing. They propagate super easy. So here I was taking all this care with it and put it in a nice soil, and it didn't like that. So I don't know what I did, but anyways, it still lives, and you can see in the ends here a little bit of new growth. So right at the end of the season it sort of bounced back. Green ash. This has also been sort of stagnant. See if I can get a good look here. That's part of the Virginia creeper, ignore that. This was one of the trees that when I sprayed the insecticide in the beginning of the year, it didn't respond well to that. The leaves turned yellow, fell off, and it just never really fully bounced back. So a lot of lessons learned from that whole thing. This along with the maples, but it is still alive, although it experienced a lot of dieback. You can see there's some live buds there, but dead there. So I got to go through and prune all the dead spots and hope for better next year. Blue spruce that was given to me from a friend of mine at work. I haven't really done anything with it. I just sort of put it in this pot when she gave it to me last fall and let it grow. Wisteria. This thing really took off this year. You look here. And goes up. Around. And what's odd too about this thing is that that's only half of it. When I moved, it had gone up and wrapped itself all around the fence that I shared with the neighbor, and I couldn't untangle it. I had to just cut it. So it lost about half of the growth that it got. This is only half of it. So I'm happy with that. Here's the Siberian elm. It wasn't quite as vigorous this year as it was last, probably due to the repot that I did, and I did a video on it, and you'll see if you watch it that it got a really major root pruning done, but it lived. And I will say that in the spring, I'm going to do something about this. I don't know exactly what yet. I'm thinking it's going to be an air layer, but I haven't decided if I'm going to try and air layer it here or here. Remains to be seen. My little $5 boxwood. I did just like a 30-second video on this, not me doing anything with it, just showing the before and after. Amur maple. This one, from what I can recall, I don't know what happened with it. Oh, I do know what happened with it. Something happened with the trunk down there, and it got scored all the way around. I don't know how it happened, but I just buried that part in new soil thinking, well, maybe it'll kind of layer itself like an air layer. And it did, it lived, but it's not looking great. Another Siberian elm, just a cutting that took off and not really doing much with it. It's just kind of there. This is the Korean lilac. Did a video on this late spring, early summer time-ish. I don't know a lot about these yet. Still, I'm just kind of learning, but it did live and it did gain some new growth. Hopefully, sorry, let me move some of this here. It did get some new growth. Some of these sprouts down here at the bottom, they just sprouted out of the roots. So not the kind of growth I wanted, but hey, what can you do? Little $7 juniper I got just for funsies. Let's take a look here. Actually, follow me. Let's put this on the bench for a second. There we go. I don't have my little spinny table, so I'll do it old school. This is my Mr. Miyagi tree. So it's doing well. It had a lot of good new growth this year. This is, I'm just sort of letting this go. I'm not sure if I'm going to go cascade style or what yet, but I call this the nose of the tree. But yeah, it's doing real well. So let's go look at the rest. Okay. I believe that is a catalpa tree given to me from another bonsai enthusiast here in Boise, Idaho, Corey Leslie. You can check him out at Mr. Leslie's Trees. He's got a Facebook page and a YouTube channel. And right here we've got a catonister, this is in pretty rough shape because it's at the bottom of all these others here. So when it gets watered, just all the stuff dumps on it. But also, you know, I've noticed that some of the trees, sometimes the ones that get neglected like this, as long as they get water and sunlight and neglected in all other ways, they actually end up doing the best in the long run. That's just a weird little observation that I've noticed. Probably just, I guess that's how trees work. They just grow best when they're left alone without me messing with them all the time. Here's a different Korean lilac. I think I got this one on clearance at Lowe's for like $3. I repotted it just for fun, and you know, it lived. Shantung maple, my favorite tree, even though it is really ragged condition. I'll point out a few things if I can get a good shot here. So, one odd thing about this tree this year, I had some branches growing off of this and they were doing great, and then they just died. The whole branch just died off. I've never seen that happen before, so I was alarmed, to say the least. But the rest of it lived. We've got some really bad major budding going on there, so that's a mess. I decided just to kind of leave it alone for now and mess with it when all the leaves drop, make some branch selection. But you can see we've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 branches coming out of one spot, so that's a problem. Otherwise, it's doing well. Silver maple, catonister. Did a video on this big guy earlier in the summer. Silver maple. This is one that I did a video on recently, actually. It also responded poorly to the insecticide. And I'll show you, actually, here's a good example. Its sister tree here. This is what it looked like. This is what happens when you spray them with a certain type of insecticide called Zone, I think. Z1 is what it was, from Zamzos. I'm not saying that it's bad. Once again, just want to say that. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that my trees responded very poorly to it. As you can see the difference here. See these weird sickly looking alien hand leaves. So what I did with this other one here, its sister, this, is, you'll see in the videos that I just basically went and trimmed all the leaves off for the most part. And then it bounced back healthy. So I wish I would have done it here too. It's a little too late now in the season. I didn't want to do it because part of me was thinking, well, maybe it won't respond well to that in its weak condition, but quite the opposite. It responded perfectly. So, lesson learned. More maple. These little guys have been fun. They really like the multi-trunk. They try. If you let them go unchecked, they'll try to do this multi-trunk thing. So you gotta have to keep them in check there a little bit, but they're fun. I like them. Okay, then we get a better look at this one here. Katsura Japanese maple. Having a hard time focusing here. So this one's going to take some work because we've got a lot of branches crossing, as you can see. But this one's always a champ. It does really well, and when it's looking good, it's looking good. Right now it's not looking good because, you know, the move was a stressful event, I think, for some of these trees. I hate to be over dramatic about it, but it was in the hottest time of the year. I mean, I don't know if it's 100, but it was close to it. And, you know, they go from the environment that they're used to with the amount of sunlight and water, etc., to a completely new environment with a different level of sunlight and a different amount of sunlight, and watering times are different. It's just, you know, it has an effect on trees. Sometimes they respond well, sometimes not. None of mine really responded terribly, but they did respond, and they sort of acted unpredictably. But this one here is always been one of my favorites. It is a back budding beast. Here's a good example right here. I stayed pretty on top of it to try to avoid that. Hang on, let me see if I can get this to focus better. Okay, hopefully this focuses a little bit better now. Anyways, I try to stay on top of the back budding, but you can see it's just happened so quick. Right there, you got two branches coming out of the same spot. I'm sure there's going to be examples all over the place if we look. There's one. Yeah. So anyways, that's a look at the Katsura Japanese maple. This is one of the Shantung maple cuttings that I took. Not a ton of new growth or anything, but it's hanging on and stayed this way all summer. Got this one, and then I got one right here. Let me grab a look at here. This one is not doing or looking quite as good, but hanging on nonetheless. So I don't know if I can get focus. There. See if I can see the buds. Maybe. Between the lighting and my terrible cameraman skills, we don't have a chance here. Well, anyways, that's a look at that. But one thing I've been checking is I just take them and look underneath to see, are there any roots coming out of the bottom? No. So it's anybody's guess if these little cuttings are going to make it or not. For those who don't know, Shantung maples are very difficult to propagate. So I'm really hoping that these work. All right. Here's the something Philadelphus. You see it also responded in that weird alien hand kind of way with when I sprayed it with insecticide. But not all the way. I mean, a lot of it, I don't know, some of them responded extremely bad, some only a little bit, and some a lot. So this, I believe, is a river birch. I don't know, it just grew in some, I had a little pot of seedlings that I was growing, and this one was the only one that grew out of it, and it wasn't the seed that I put in. So for a while, I was just kind of stumped as to what the heck it was. Did a little research, and I think it's a river birch. Or possibly just a weed. We'll see. I'm not sure. Bay willow. Oop, leaking. Regular corkscrew willow. Virginia creeper. Here is the Siberian elm forest. Yeah, well, I'm hoping this turns out with the lighting, because I can tell you on my end it's not looking good. So I'm hoping it does. But the Siberian elm forest did well mostly. Some of them did not. So some of the little cuttings that I put in there did not survive. Some only barely survived. As you can see, some thrived. So the big one back here is doing fantastic. The big one up front is doing fantastic. Big one in the middle, doing fantastic. Medium one up front, hanging on for dear life. Medium one right there, also hanging on for dear life. This little guy, dear life. So that one's dead. There was another one that I had removed that was right there. It was dead. That one's dead. One way back there, I believe, is dead. Here's a Siberian elm cutting that I took, not this year, but last. These things propagate very easily and very well. They're just a lot of fun. The only gripe about them is that they don't have very good autumn color on their leaves. They just kind of turn yellow and fall off. So not a whole lot of good color. Silver maple. That big bulge right there, that's just when this thing was just a little tiny seedling sprout. I tied it in a knot to see if it could be done, and it can. There's the proof. Another silver maple. This one is actually from my niece Hayden, who we keep talking about doing some bonsai together, and one thing or another happens, and we haven't yet. But this tree is for her eventually, when the day comes. Back here we've got a Western Sand Cherry. Yep, not much to say about it, really. Here's a look at the two oak leaf sumacs that I've got. This one I've had 1 year longer than the other. Got it in October of 17. You see it started turning purple, which is kind of unusual. Usually these things turn better colors than this. That's one thing that I loved about them. Couple notes on the oak leaf sumac is that they're a shrub, and they stink like heck when you cut them. I mean, even just pulling a leaf off like that right there, boy, I wish you could smell that. But trust me, it stinks. I don't know why. This one I got in October 18, and as you can see, I like it a lot better because the trunk has so much more character. It's still in the process of being refined. It's got some weirdness to it around the other side there. Got this kind of aerial root thing. I don't know if that shot worked or not, but it's sort of a triple, well, it's, I don't know what to call it. It's like a single trunk. Let's see here. Bear with me just a minute. I'll try to do this without screwing the whole thing up. Okay. So that's a better look here at this kind of just liked it. I don't know why. I know it breaks the rules of bonsai, but also I just kind of don't care what the rules are. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I like it. But yeah, so it's got this weird single trunk and then it branches off into 3. The reason I've never addressed that or done anything about it is because I don't know which ones I want to keep yet. I haven't decided. So that's a look at here. One thing I do like about this one in particular is the age on the bark. I think you can get examples so you can see it. Yeah, hold on. You can see a big difference in how the bark looks on the aged part compared to the new part. It just has a real kind of gnarly look to it. So I want to see the roots get a little bit more of that age, because right now they still look a little bit rooty and less trunky. We'll get there. So those are the 2 oak leaf sumacs. Got another Amur maple back here. Got a lot of oaks. Here's an oak. There's an oak. Everywhere's an oak. Here is the first Amur maple that I ever had, and I've had this thing for probably 5 or 6 years, maybe, give or take. I kind of lost track. But this one always hinged on the verge of death every single year. It's my drama queen tree. It's like, oh, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. And I say, you know what? Then just die. And it says, just kidding. And then it sprouts back. So this is, I mean, it was doing well, but like the others, sprayed it with insecticide, and you can see the result. But this one being such a drama queen, I didn't want to give it any more undue stress, so I just sort of let it go and just let it hang, and hang it did. It just hung all summer and stayed like this. And so hoping for a better show next year. Here is what I would just call a river willow. I don't know what kind it is. This one I named Loki. If you've seen one of the updates on it previously, I swam across the river, didn't have a knife or clippers or anything on me. I just snapped a branch off of a tree that was hanging over the river. I literally snapped it off of there, twisted it, pulled, just yanked it off, and then carried it around for about an hour or 2 while we were swimming. Dipped it into the water frequently during the process. Brought it home, stuck in a pot. My girlfriend, who was with me at the time, thought it was nuts. She did not think it was going to live. She was kind of new to the whole tree thing at the time and new to how weird I was with it. But to her surprise, it did live, and so we named it Loki, and here it is. Now we like it. Here's another Amur maple. I'm experimenting, as you can see, with these Amur maples, trying all kinds of different things. Growing it in a giant pot just to give it all the room to in the world, just to let it go crazy. Unfortunately, during the move, a piece of it got snapped off, which sucks because that kind of defeats the whole purpose of why I had it in this big pot in the first place. I wanted it to just grow unchecked, unlike the others, but unfortunately it got checked. Here we've got a silver maple. This is one of my favorites. Done a few videos on it. I'm gonna go around the other side to give you a better look at that one in a minute here. This is another lilac tree, giant pot, just to let it go unchecked. And that is the one Yamadora that I dug up this year here in Boise. Unfortunately, it's not growing the way I want it to grow. You know how trees tend to do that. I loved the texture on this bark and the trunk, which is why I kept so much of the trunk. Didn't grow. It only grew from the base. So I've got 3 or 4 shoots from the base, none from the trunk. So that kind of sucks. I'm hoping though that it will next year. If not, I might try grafting one of these branches through the trunk. We'll see if that works. So let's go take a look at a couple last ones. Take a quick look at this willow here. This is one that buddy of mine, Ryan, gave me as a cutting about 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years ago. And he gave it to me a cutting about like this right here, give or take, something like this size. Just a tiny little cutting. Something you would pay no attention to. Stuck it in a bottle of water. And within the last 1.5 to 2 years, this is what it's grown into. And this is only half too. It actually broke in half. Right there. It had another shoot coming off last summer and it fell and broke. But yeah, this is my girlfriend really likes this one, so we're just gonna go and get a better looking pot for it. Not that that isn't beautiful right there, but we want one that's a little better. So still need some development off of this side here. I'd like to see some better growth here and just some cleanup on the inside. But yeah, it turned out to be quite the little character tree. Okay, so here I am on the back side now so that we can get a better look at some of these. Here's the silver maple that I wanted to point out. I've done a few videos on this. I've always liked it quite a bit. Starting to get a pretty decent trunk for only being 5 or 6 years old, give or take. But I like it because it's so vigorous. I mean, this thing, you just can't keep it down. I guess coming around didn't do a whole lot of justice. I still can't get in there to get a good shot, but that's a little glimpse at it. Nothing spectacular yet, but it will be. Better look at this lilac here. And then here is that Yamadori that I was talking about. Yeah, see all those sprouts from the base. None out of the trunk. I did there at one point in the very beginning have a couple of sprouts coming out of the trunk, and I was so happy, and then they just died. So yeah, so anyways, there it is, October 6th now, 2019, and getting these ready for winterization coming up here in no time. So that's a look at them. Hope you enjoyed. Please do click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, or if you want to see some more updates on these come wintertime and spring. I do different videos on each individual one throughout the year, and then each season I do a seasonal update. So I'll do a winter 2019 update, spring 2020, etc., etc. So you can go back and kind of see all of them and see how they progress, and then keep an eye on them for further progressions. So thanks for watching, everybody. Happy fall.